Welcome to the Tessa Tubbs Podcast. This season marks a bit of a shift, both for this podcast and for me. Over the last several years, my work has largely lived inside organizations, helping leaders execute strategy, navigate complexity, and succeed in corporate environments. Much of what I've learned and taught over nearly 3 decades still matters deeply, and you'll continue to hear elements of that here. But over time, something else has been emerging. You see, last year I gave a TED Talk centered on a question that wouldn't let me go. That question was, what if the life you built was never meant for you? That question didn't come from theory. It came from my own story and from years of listening to incredibly capable, successful people quietly wrestle with misalignment, exhaustion, and a sense that they were living someone else's version of success. As I've continued this work with clients, in my own research, and in my own life, I found myself moving beyond tactics and titles and more deeply into what it really means to lead yourself. I'm not talking about performing well or succeeding externally, but to understand yourself accurately, to take ownership of your choice and live in alignment with what you know to be true. That shift from corporate success to individual success has become increasingly important to me, and it's what this podcast is centered on. So this season, the Tessa Tubbs Podcast is a space for a conversation about self-leadership, how people come to know themselves and how they make consequential choices, and how they navigate the tension between who they've been and who they're becoming. If you'd like to explore more about the thinking behind the shift, you can find my TED Talk linked in the show notes. It offers deep context for the journey that led me here. Today's conversation is especially meaningful in that regard. Through the TED community, I had the opportunity to connect with other presenters whose work reflects this same kind of evolution. People whose lives include both very visible success and very human reckoning. One of those people is Dr. Kevin Dyson. Kevin is widely known for his career in the NFL, including some of the most memorable moments in the league's history. But what's just as compelling is the life he's built beyond the field. As an educator, a leader, a father, and someone deeply committed to shaping the next generation. His journey from professional sports to school leadership and service offers a powerful lens on how definitions of success, impact, and legacy can evolve over time. Kevin, I'm really glad you're here.
Hey, I appreciate you. I'm excited to join you.
So before we get into your story, I'd love for you to share who you are in this season of your life and what matters most to you right now.
Oh man, it's such a profound way to start a podcast. Man, there's a lot going on personally in my life, and I'm just trying to grow on a daily basis. It's one of those things as a leader, you tell your teams to just incremental steps forward, just get better every day, trying to do better than you were the day before. And I'm trying to live by that creed. Aside from personal stuff going on, I'm starting a charter school, trying to navigate that, the application process, fundraising, all the things that come along with that. And then trying to figure out, I'm getting to that phase of life where you start thinking about what's next for you. Obviously the charter school thing is at the forefront, but beyond that, as I turned 50 this year, and,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. And you start thinking, man, really that old saying, I got more days behind me than ahead of me. And so taking that value of life and time and trying to maximize it to the best I can. I don't always get it right.
Right.
And I don't always feel like I am maximizing my time. But for the most part, that's the intent. That's where that phase of life that I'm in is just being appreciative of the time I have right now and not try to wish my time away. I can't wait till spring break. I can't wait till that 3-day weekend. I can't wait till my birthday. Just try to take days as they come and try to do the best I can within that time frame. And like I said, I don't always get it right,
All right.
but I'm working on it.
I love that. That's a challenge for me as well. I'm naturally oriented to living in the future and planning ahead. And so really taking that time to just be present, right? Like stop rushing towards the next thing, but be better where you are, be content where you are, be satisfied where you are, and sort of taking the time to smell the roses like they used to say back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would always tell my teachers when I was in the school building, we're afforded 86,400 seconds every day. or minutes or something to that effect. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but and at the end of the day, did you maximize that time? If your time was money and you were given $84,600 every day, would you be able to say you maximize your time spent every dollar, or would you owe me money at the end of the day?
Right. Right.
And that's the kind of the notion of, making sure you are. And again, I'm not sitting up here. We're talking, and do I get it right all the time? No, 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 no. And I think that's the beauty of human power is we don't have to get it right all the time. We just got to try to be better the next time around.
I love that.
Yeah,
Someone said that it's not about perfection, but it's about progress
yeah,
over perfection. Right.
yep,
So I
exactly.
love that.
Yeah,
I'm love to sort of go back a little bit and for you to take us back to where your story really begins for you. Like what
yeah.
shaped you long before the NFL?
Oh man. I guess I'm gonna start at kind of preteen, teenage years. Anything before that, there's a lot to that. There's a lot of substance to that. But I'll start at what kind of is the driving force for me now.
Mhm.
About 11, 12 years old, and I wanted to play in the NBA. Michael Jordan was my favorite player. The Lakers was my favorite team, so I wanted to be the next MJ, whether that was Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan. I wanted to be one of them, and that was my dream. And I told my mom, I boasted to her that I'm gonna go to the NBA one day. I'm gonna buy her house. I was raised by a single mother. I'm the oldest of four,
Mm.
and living in apartments and things of that nature, sharing rooms and with your siblings and things. That just seemed to be like the ultimate dream for me to be able to do that for my mother. And
Right.
so, my mom had really that's one rule when it came down to it. We had to maintain a 3.0 or better
Okay.
to play sports, be average, what it essentially came down to. And of course, I challenged that being the oldest. And I'm a rule follower, so that's crazy. But I just, I just didn't see the value in education then.
Mm.
Only thing I wanted to do is play sports. And it didn't matter what kind of sport it was. I played them, even though basketball was my favorite.
Mm.
And I challenged that. My mom took it away. It was right before it was at the end of the first semester. I had a very low GPA. I had one A. You can guess what that A was in. And and she took it away. And I begged, I cried, I pleaded, I begged, I cried, and I pleaded again. And she kept saying no, kept saying no. And finally, whether I broke her will or not, I don't believe that's what it was.
Mm.
She had me progress monitored for the rest of the year. And at any given point, my grades dropped below whatever. Uh, I wasn't going to be able to play. There was no questions asked. And so that was a life lesson for me to understand there's consequences to your decisions, but there's steps to the progress. You can't
Right.
skip steps. And my mom wasn't necessarily telling me that you can't play ball. She wanted to understand, especially as a young black male with single mom, and at that time, especially in the 80s, get your education, and I think we were all conditioned at that time. As you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job, and you work and provide for your family.
Right.
And I think that's what my mom was really trying to instill in me. But the other part of that story is, when I told her that I was going to the NBA, she came home a day or two later, and this is before the internet, right? This is probably 87, 87, 88, the winter of 87, 88. And she came home with the statistical probabilities of a person making it in all the major professional sports in America. And the
Wow.
numbers were, astronomical, 1 in 2 million, 1 in 3 million, it was just like, what made you less than 1% to
Mm.
actually be that person that's going to fulfill that dream? And
Right.
again, I look back on it, and it wasn't her trying to derail my dream.
Right.
I think she just didn't want me to put all my expectations in
Mm.
that proverbial professional athlete basket. I think she just really wanted me to say, there's still levels to this. I'm not raising any dummies. You need to get your education. And if that doesn't work, then what? You have to have something you can fall back on. And I didn't understand it as a kid, especially when she took basketball away from me. But now that I'm in education And now that I even have my own kids and they're playing sports, I understand it. And I've
Mm,
been around kids with aspirations to play professional sports, be professional musicians, be actors and actresses. I've been around kids that want to be in that quote unquote entertainment world.
right,
And what I tell them is like my mom told me, there's levels to this. You just can't skip levels. It doesn't
right,
work like that for everybody. Now, some people, it works out for them like that, but not
right,
everybody. And you can't skip levels. You can't just not show up to work one day and think everything's gonna be okay. You can't just not take that test one day because you don't feel like it because that's just not in the cards for you. You know, there's levels to this. You can't skip steps, and those were the lessons my mom instilled in me, and that has brought me to even present day why I'm opening a charter school that's centered around that same kind of passion and joy in sport. And so my origin story, yeah, it starts probably well before preteen
mhm,
years, but that was such an impactful, influential moment in my life to even to where I'm at now that I still speak on it. It's in my book. It's all the things. It was like a moment where my mom, single mom, trying to raise a young man was like, you got responsibilities. You can't skip those responsibilities. And if it works out for you, so be it. It's supposed to happen, but you make sure you take care of what you're supposed to first.
That's first of all, that's an amazing story. Hat off to your mom, just both drawing the line to instill responsibility, but even putting up the mirror from a third party perspective, not saying I, your
Hmm.
mom, or saying you can't make it, but here are the stats and
Yeah.
facilitating your processing the information. I'm
Hmm.
curious, obviously you worked hard because you got back into sports, so you did what you needed to do to earn your way back into the gymnasium or into the arena. Tell me a little bit about that arc from those early line snappings that your mom did to what was going on inside of you that gave you that momentum to keep pushing, understand what minimum requirements were while still reaching
Yeah.
for your goals.
I think some of it, and for lack of a better way to say this, money rules the world, and we didn't have a lot of it. And
Right.
that to me, seeing professional athletes seemed like, and that was something I was good at,
Mm,
that was a way to overcome poverty or even middle class, if you will,
right.
and so that was, that was the kind of the motivation. It wasn't necessarily money. It was the taking care of family more
Mhm.
so than money. It was making sure my family was okay and now kids were okay.
Right.
It was kind of that was kind of the motivation. And, going through that thing with my mother, I was trying to skip the steps. I was in a rush to get there. I just wanted to play and get better and get opportunity. And then I can do the things like I'm going to buy you a house. That's going to be the first thing I do when I get some money is buy
Right.
you a house. And, and at 12 years old, you don't know anything. You just know we're not living in a house or we're renting somebody else's house or what have you. And you're just like, that's all you know. So to me, the ultimate dream, the ultimate accomplishment was I'm gonna get to a place in my life, which I only thing I thought there was playing basketball or football or any other sport, is that I can take whatever I make from that and provide for my mother who provided for me. And that was like the biggest thing for me. And again, life has taught me a little bit different along the way, but that
Right.
that moment and these moments, they have helped me with how I am today as far as motivation, work ethic, and things of that nature. Because I had a dream and I ended up realizing it in a different capacity, but I ended up making professional sports and realizing my dreams and playing a kid's game for a king's ransom.
Mm. I love the connection, right? Your as you talk about your drivers and your motivations around family, desiring more, not just for yourself, for those around you. But you
Hmm.
weren't just driven, you didn't have these drivers and motivations alone. You were also looking inside and assessing, but what do
Yeah.
I have? What can I utilize? what's mine and mine alone. And
Yeah.
you knew sports was the thing for you that you were going to anchor on. I love the fact that though you needed to do certain things and not skip steps and you built a work ethic, it sounds like you also stayed attuned to that inner part of you that was unique to who you are. And you continued to honor that, even though
Hmm.
you had to do all these other things to earn the right to invest in it and develop it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not everyone does that.
Well, I thank you. I thank you. But you know what, man? After playing football and transitioning in life, and you know, like I said, my dream was set early in life.
Right.
I realized it in a different sport, but my dream was set early in life.
Right.
And I remember at 15 years old thinking 30 years old was old. Like 30s, that's old, right? Here I am retiring from my professional football career at 30 years old.
Mhm.
I'm 30. I I like to believe I have a lot more years to live from that point. And I realized my dream. And that was still, even in college, even though I got my degrees and
Mhm.
things like that, my dream was still to play professional sports. And
Mhm.
at that time, professional football, obviously. And so when you realize that, and now you're done at 30, it's like, now here I am. I feel like I'm 12 years old again. Like, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Right.
And that's essentially what it was for me starting over. It was like, okay, here I am starting over. What do you want to do when you grow up? I've been playing a kid's game for
Right.
literally the past 20 something years of my life. And now it's done. And what are you going to do? And so you have to find new passions. You got to find new purpose. You got to humble yourself and start over in whatever that regard. Now, some people have that sense before they get in the league, and the league was just a vessel for that, whatever that thing they had after it, and
Right.
they set themselves up that kind of way. I unfortunately did not do that in the sense that I had a trajectory after I got done playing ball. One, I got done playing ball sooner than I expected because of injuries, but two, because I I didn't see past the moment of playing. I didn't want to get beyond that moment. I wanted to see
Mhm.
that career out, make as much money as I can, and do all the things that, and then figure it out. When now I look back on it, that was negligence on my part for myself. I should have been really preparing myself while I was playing for what I would potentially do after I was done playing. And I ended at a young age. I was 30 years old
Wow.
when my playing career ended. And that is a life lesson that I don't get that time back, but it's something that hopefully I can instill in people that I'm around now, like students and my own kids.
Right. It's interesting your comment there at the end in particular. I read something the other day that talked about, a lot of times when we, get to a place in life when we look back, like hindsight's 2020, right? It's always
Yeah.
easy to say, hey, I, should have done this or, could have been better positioned for that. But the quote I read was like, it's important to be kind to yourself because sometimes it's not possible to know what only time can teach you. And so, right, like, it's just, and I think about your story, what it took to get to the level of the environment you were in where success is very visible, it's very
Hmm.
measurable, it's public and can be unforgiving. Like it would seem astronomical that where you started and where you ended up, that you would also have capacity to be thinking beyond that next level.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what you're doing now, right? Like seeding legacy, cross generational investment, that to me, in my experience, is where more of that can come from. But with that said, I'm curious how your understanding of impact and legacy, you've touched on this a little bit,
Mm.
but I'm curious how that's changed as you moved from professional sports into education and leadership.
Mm. Oh, wow. Another profound question. I've done a lot of podcasts too, and that one's kind of stumping me. Um, I, one thing that sport teaches you is there's something bigger than you. You're not the only, special team sports. You're not the only person out here, and you
Mm,
have a job to fulfill. You have a role to do. In order for us to be successful, you have
right.
to fulfill your job, your obligation, your role,
Mm,
and try to do it to the best you can. against somebody else who also has that same criteria.
Mm.
And one thing sport teaches you is team over self. If the team is successful, I'm successful. And so as you leave that area, that familiarity, if you will, that I know team, I know my role on this team, and you try to fulfill that gap, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard. It really is difficult. And you hear a lot of players talk about they miss playing, and if you really delve into what they really are trying to say, it's yeah, I miss playing, I miss that, but that's missing your youth. That's missing the young legs, the young arms, and all those things. But what they're saying is the camaraderie, the fellowship, the accountability, the winning and losing together, like the team
Mm-hmm.
aspect. That is what athletes miss, specifically team sports, when
Right.
it's said and done. And how do you fill that gap with new passions and new purpose? You know,
Mm.
and I speak on it and I tell people, man, we all have the power to pursue our possible. But what is that possible? And that limitation of the possible is up to you.
Right.
And can you achieve whatever your possible is? Absolutely. You have that power that and that right to do so. But a lot of us are scared to one, humble themselves to start over,
Mm.
two, a failure. You know, what does that look like? But I think of things like the light bulb. How many times did they fail before they got that one right?
Right.
You know, that's not that sort of thing. And I think people like that, they call them crazy for a reason, because inventors and people that are able to be forward thinking, even more so than myself, obviously, you have to be a little loony. You have to continue to fail
Yeah.
at something because you had a vision and a dream for yourself.
Mm. That's
You
it.
had a possible that you were pursuing, and you were taking that, and I'm gonna keep going and eventually get it right. And I think you look at small business owners, you look at entrepreneurs and things of that nature. And so, like, going back to what you were asking me about my question, and if and being prepared when you're done playing ball and all those things, again, I just think it was a young, call it innocent mindset
Mm.
of I I didn't know I could be preparing and doing what I'm doing and still be effective at both. I
Right.
think a lot of players that done that did it well and understood. And it wasn't like they trying to keep it from anybody. They were willing, if you asked them, like, what are you doing? Everybody would school you and help you because they all want to help each other out. But you just got to take that time to ask. And I didn't. I didn't take the time to ask. I said, just whenever my time is up, I'll figure it out. And that's kind of how I did it. You know, I just, once my time was up, I was 30 years old, and I said, I'll figure it out now. And it's somewhat of a waste of time because I'm trying this thing here, trying this thing there, trying to get interviews here, trying to get interview there. And then you wasting a year or two, and next thing you know, you're like, I got to do something, you know. And that's why I landed in education, and immediately I loved the impact I was having on kids, and so you talk about impact and inspiration and
Right.
things of that nature. As a player, my impact was on the field, whether we won, lost, how productive I was that day,
Right.
things like that. But the legacy part of that is, yeah, I played ball, but I was able to leave a couple things behind where people still acknowledge me for
Mm.
those successes, right? They still
Right.
see me and they're like, oh, you was part of this, you was part of that. And that's rare for the NFL because not everybody has that. There's a lot of guys that come through the league that had more successful careers than myself that weren't able to leave a legacy behind, if you will.
Mm.
And so you talk about legacy and moving forward. Now I've been in education long enough where the legacy part of it is what impact can I leave that
Mm.
has a legacy that's beyond me? Meaning, what can I leave behind for what I've been doing, for the purpose that I have been given, that will last beyond Kevin Dyson.
Right.
And that is one of the reasons I wanted to start a school.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting as I'm listening to you. Um, when you talk about the year. asking questions, exploring different things that may have felt like it was wasting time. In my space, that sounds like a year of self-discovery.
Hmm.
And there's a theme to what I'm hearing as you talk about, even when you say like what I missed from the NFL, it was that teamwork, it was the camaraderie, it was working towards shared goals, it was winning and losing together. When I
Yes.
think about, your story from your youth, like this was about how do I take care of family, how to take care of community, how to take care of mom. It's always, it's group thinking, it's
Yeah.
relational orientation. Even as you're describing now with the education space and setting up a charter school, and you talk about the impact and the excitement that gives you. But even as you said, your NFL career, ended earlier with injuries, et cetera, and still, people are talking about your impact, the indelible fingerprint you left on things. There's an arc to who you are. That you are
Hmm.
a community guy, you're a relational guy, you're about, like you said, the team wins over self. Many of us have played team sports, but we don't all walk away with the same lessons and the takeaways and what's
Yeah.
valuable about that. And the fact that
Yeah.
those are yours, and not just yours from sports, but yours throughout childhood and into life beyond sports, and the legacy you're making at 50 plus. I think it's a beautiful story of who you are as an individual, and the honor you've given to that person, and the commitment you've made to sort of exploring outlets where that
Yeah.
can be realized, and you can contribute and still protect who you uniquely are. That's very
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I thank you. It's taken me a long time to get here. It's taken, for lack of a better way to say, it, a lot of losses in
Right.
personal and even professional, in some regards, to get here. And you know, when you retire from professional sports, I had my bachelor's, right?
Hmm.
But I had been out of school for almost 10 years by the
Right.
time I got back out into got my first master's degree,
Mm.
and the world had changed that much. Like, I had a computer at home, but the most I was using my computer for at that time was looking up addresses on MapQuest, you know, and flights
Remember
and
that.
flights and yeah, you remember, and flights. I was booking flights
Yeah.
online, and that was about the most I was using the internet for. And so
Right.
then I retire, and I'm going back to school, and now the professor is talking about spreadsheets and Word documents and Excel and PowerPoints. I had no clue what this man's talking about. I'm 30 something years old. And I'm like, what is this man talking about? I had
Mhm.
no idea, but I didn't want to raise my hand and ask that question because I'm figuring all these other people know.
Right.
And I'm sitting here like, oh my goodness, what I got myself into. But again, that goes that humble moment of I didn't know. I had to start somewhere. I figured it out. I knew I had. I wasn't a dumb kid. I just school just I did the bare minimum,
Right.
really. And what I've learned about myself and about school too is you get out of it what you put into it. And what I mean is all the skills that I've amassed by being an athlete and made me a professional athlete, the motivation, the work ethic, the
Mhm.
attrition, the stick to itiveness, the learning how to fail and overcoming that failure
Mhm.
was all the things I put right back into getting my degrees, and especially the
Mhm.
doctorate. It was just, you just got to grind it out sometimes. And
Yeah.
I had it in me this whole time. I just never applied it until I got into adulthood and got into my 30s and 30s and 40s. Actually, I got my doctorate, I was 40 something years old. And so it's been like one of those things. I feel like as I've grown as an individual and as I've learned as an individual, that I hope and I believe that I can also leverage and instill that into younger people, and with my experience from sports and experience from education.
I love that. And I think, one of the things you touched on there, particularly around like sometimes you got to grind it out, right? Sometimes our circumstances are what they are and you got to push through. I think that's a very powerful reminder of
Yeah.
the journey and what comes along with it. And it sounds like it was very impactful in helping you understand yourself even more honestly, and at the same
Hmm.
time, take ownership of your choices so that you're living this more aligned life that you're enjoying today.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's that's essentially what the dream is, right? Is when you get to the point, and for lack of better words, I guess I am getting gray hair, but you get to the point. You like back in my day, we all get to that point,
Right.
and we talk to the younger kids. But one thing I will say, learning as I've gotten older, is from the lessons you learn from the older people is experience.
Right.
They have been here longer than you. There are some lessons you get from people from their experiences. Now, your experience is a little bit different. Technology is a lot different from these teenagers compared to when I was a teenager,
Right.
but life is still the same. There's still going to be problems. There's going to be obstacles. It's a matter of how you navigate those obstacles and how you grow from them.
Right.
And then you get to this point in your life, whether it be something monumental happens, a reminder happens, you
Right.
lose life, a divorce, or kid, something, a car wreck, whatever it might be. And one thing you learn as you get older is life is short,
That's
and I said it earlier, when you realize it, like I said, I'm 50 years old, and the average life expectancy of a male is 75, 73, 75, somewhere in there. And for a football player, it's around 60 years old.
mm,
So, and I'm 50. So that being said, hopefully I'm defy the laws of averages and I live a little bit longer than that. But within that, statistically, I am way, way, way far away from the days of old and to the days of younger to the days of potentially my last day. And so it's about trying to enjoy the days while you're here the best you can.
I love that. Well, the fact that your entire story has been about you consistently beating the odds, I'm going to take that bet. So uh, I think you got a lot of
I
runway in
like
front of
that. I never thought of it like that.
you. When you talk about like that journey back to school, the revolution of technology at that time, I bet there's a lot
Hmm.
of folks listening to you now who are feeling that with the, introduction of AI and so
Yeah.
many corporations talking about laying off talent. What does it mean for education for kids? When how much are they learning? How much is machine learning that they're submitting to get grades? All of that. I guess my question, knowing that at the end of the day, we got to figure out how to go through, right? That's the key thing I'm hearing what you described, and the insight as what you get when you're 50 in the 50 plus club is like life is short, and this like
Hmm.
you got to play through. What helps you stay with it when the pressure's high, when expectations are high, when it's hard? How do you
Mm,
actually play through?
man. Um, I think I'll use sports as kind of the catalyst of that question. Sport has taught me a lot about overcoming adversity.
Mm,
In 1999, 2000, we went to Super Bowl, and 3 weeks before the Super Bowl, I was part of the Museum Miracle, and it was being praised all over TV, being interviewed, and all this stuff. Right, and my face is all over national media because of it. 3 weeks after that, I get tackled a yard short of the Super Bowl to potentially tie it and go to overtime. Two
mhm.
of the most memorable plays in my life, let alone in NFL history. And that right there was the the ultimate. I was on cloud nine. I had the great off season. I was ready to get to the next season. I was ready to make another run in the Super Bowl. Potentially, we had a lot of guys coming back. We got better in certain positions by the draft and some free agents. So we felt pretty good about our chances getting back. In fact, that team ended up being one of the best teams in the field, losing the second round of playoffs. But with that September, just coming off Super Bowl, just coming out of the Museum Miracle,
Right.
I had an accident in practice,
Mm,
collided with a teammate, and completely changed my trajectory for the rest of my life.
mm,
Tore three major ligaments in my knee,
Right.
dislocated it, and bone fragments. I don't even know. I could tell you what I didn't do. There's so much that I did, and that changed the trajectory of my career.
Mm.
And here I am, 25 years old, and you're not sure if your career's ever going to get back to where it was or at all.
Right.
And that has a way of putting perspective on you as well.
Mm.
And so with that, I think as you talk about transitioning and having perspective, and as I've gotten older, it's stuff like that as I kept trying to chase the dream, one catastrophic injury after the next. So that because the next 3 years of my 5 years, I had reconstruction of something. It was my hamstring and Achilles, and started with the knee,
Mm.
and it was just constant trying to overcome that. Well, again, I'm late 20s, and here you are at a crossroads in your life, and what can you do? Are you able to overcome the adversity and reinvent yourself? And that was
Right.
what the ultimate came down to, is just reinvention and humbling
Mm.
myself and reinventing myself, and finding a way to find new passions and purpose.
Mm. And so what I'm hearing you describe is, one, it wasn't just one adversity. You went from like mountaintop to a series of challenges, setbacks, pressure,
Hmm.
etc. And that, like, you just kept getting up. You just kept showing up. And as you kept getting up and kept showing up, you're planning, you're percolating, you're in the moment. But it sounds like this is also when you're starting to think about what's next, right? It's sort of your
Hmm.
circumstances are forcing you in
Yeah.
a lot of ways
Hmm.
to think about next. And you're not pushing away. You're humbling yourself. You're allowing yourself to go through the process. Is that, am I capturing
No,
what?
that's pretty good. Yep, that's good. Hmm.
Okay. And it's through that process that it's gotten you on this journey that you've been
Yeah.
on. What I love about this is the arc that still continues of, you are on this different course, but it's still a course that's true to who you are at your core. It's still a
Yeah.
course about community. It's still a course about giving. It's
Hmm.
still a course about, operating with excellence. And so, for someone who's listening and who may feel a pull towards being more aligned with their true self,
Hmm.
but also feeling afraid or uncertain, what do you hope they'll take away from your story?
Man, I feel them.
Mhm.
One things I have spoken about of recent is letting go.
Mm.
And simply put, a lot of us hold on to past hurt,
Mm.
past disappointments, past frustrations, and sometimes, and a lot of times, that hampers our ability to move forward and grow. And
Mm.
so I would tell people, one of the things I speak on is you got to let go that anchor, whatever that anchor is. If it's self-pity, you got to try to find a way to let it go. And I'm speaking this, and it's still me having to do all these things too, right?
Right.
You got to let go of self-pity. You got to let go of guilt. You got to let go of resentment and
Mhm.
anger, because at the end of the day, it's only affecting you individually and not the other person. And I know it's easier said than done a lot of
Right.
times, and it's easy for me to sit up in front of a crowd of people and say, hey, this is how you show great leadership, and you got to let go of resentment, let go of, sometimes you got to let go of an idea to get to a better idea, like,
So
all the different things. And it's easy for you to say that, but in the moment, when something you've been conditioned for, or it's been a habit of yours, and it's not good for you, you you have a hard time letting go, you
mm.
know and that's a lot of times what stops our progression, stops our growth, is
Mhm.
not having the ability to let go.
Mm.
Sometimes it's just simply put, just, it's time for me to move on. And I'm not talking about personal relationships, I'm not talking about stuff like that, and you can equate that to that if you want, but I'm just talking about sometimes, if and again, it was before I say you got to persevere, like the light bulb and all that kind of thing. But sometimes I'm talking about internally. I think a lot of times we hold on to things that really stops us from growing. And again, that's years of me being reflective and trying to get better, that I recognize that in myself even. And
Mhm.
again, I'm saying all this stuff and I spoke to it and I've talked to crowds about it. I'm speaking to myself, not tell the crowd same thing. I'm telling y'all this. I'm really speaking to myself. I still need to let go of some past hurts, some
Mm,
past angers, some self mutilation, if you will. Like I beat myself up a lot.
mhm,
You know what I
mhm,
mean? Like I hate disappointing people. I'm a pleaser. Like I beat
mhm,
myself up a lot. And I got to let go of that. I got some resentment towards my father, and I
mhm,
got to let go of that. I mean, I had no reason to hold that. You know what I mean? I shouldn't say I don't anymore. I had, and it's just like when you release yourself of whatever that anchor is,
mhm.
that's when you can start growing. And again, I'm preaching this, I'm saying this, and I'm still working on it myself.
Right. I love that. The line you said around sometimes you have to let something go to make room for something new to come in. That
Yeah,
really that resonates. That hit me straight in the heart because
yeah,
you're right. It's so hard. We get our mind set on something and we want it to work, and it's wonderful to have hope, but at the same time, when we stay too long with something, we miss an opportunity for something else. So
we do.
really appreciate you sharing that. All right, I got a
Yeah.
couple more questions for you. I'm sure my listening audience wants to know: did you ever buy your mom that house?
And I intentionally don't mention it when I tell the story, especially when I do keynotes and things, because I want people to come up and ask me and engage with me and ask the question. And I did. That was the first thing I did when I got my check. Um, I paid off her mortgage,
I
and
love that.
that was the greatest joy. I told her I was going to do it. She didn't think I was going to. I mean, I was 12 years old when I told her I would. And when I got my money, I found out everything I needed to do to make it happen, from gift tax and all the different things that come with spending a couple $100,000 on a house.
Right.
Like I paid for it. Like I had a signing bonus enough that I can just pay her mortgage off. And
That's
that
awesome.
was just me I wanted her to have financial freedom, in the sense that, she was, my mom, she's only 20 years older than me. So at that time she was only 43 years old.
Mm,
And so to me, that was like giving her an opportunity to, at a young age,
right.
have some financial freedom, that she can do some things she'd never been able to do, like travel and go different places outside and inside the country. And so, yeah, I fulfilled the dream, and I professed it. I manifested it at 12 years old. And when I got that check, I was like, I promised her and myself
Mm,
that's what I was going to do, and I did it.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Where can listeners learn more about the work you're doing and the book you have, and
yeah.
maybe help with the fundraising you're doing right now?
Well, it's kind of twofold, because individually I am my own corporation. So you can go to kevindyson.com and all my stuff is there. You can find me on social media at KTDyson87, my book, merch, all the things around kevindyson.com. But the charter school is called Music City Academy. And essentially we help student athletes um, pursue their purpose in sports by achieving
Mm,
academic excellence and athletic success. And that's the ultimate dream, is to leverage the unifying power of sports and take that passion in sports and turn it into a purpose in it. And that's the ultimate dream for the Music City Academy, MCAs as we abbreviate it. Um, and people can find us at musiccityacademy.org. There's a link there to donate. As me and you talked about it before we got on the show. And
yep.
man, please, 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 please. The model is centered around sports and having great academics inside the building, athletics outside the building, and all that stuff costs money. So every penny, every dollar, every dime, every Ben Franklin, I don't care. All of them matter. No amount is too small. Man, we just appreciate any kind of contribution. Like I said, we'll take $1. It just we're going to need every penny to fulfill the dream, not just for me, but for these kids. I had a opportunity to go to a school choice fair and had a lady tell me that baseball saved her kid's life. If it weren't for baseball,
Mm,
her kid, she don't know where her son would have been. Don't know if he'd been in the streets or dead or what have you. She said baseball saved my son's life. And that's the power of sport. Sport
mm.
keeps us accountable, something bigger than yourself. You do your role for the betterment of the team. And that's what I'm hoping to build at Music City Academy.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Kevin, thank you for bringing such honesty and perspective to this conversation. What you've shared offers more than experience. It really provides a way of thinking about choice, identity,
Yeah.
and what it looks like to really live with intention over time.
Yeah.
I want to pause here and just sort of speak directly to our listening audience. And for those who have tuned in, as you consider what surfaced in this conversation, I want to ask you to think about what's one thing it's helping you see more clearly about yourself, and what's one small step you can take to honor that. If it's helpful, pause the recording for a moment and jot it down, and think about how you might move even 1 inch forward with what is coming up for you. Often, these conversations don't just land with us, but they also remind us of someone else and what they're going through. So if someone comes to mind for you as you're reflecting, I want to also invite you to share this episode with them and encourage them to spend time with the ideas Kevin has shared with us today. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.